What is a DAW and how does it work? A digital audio workstation combines MIDI and audio, software and hardware, and allows you to record the audio and record the MIDI and playback audio as well, and actually mix it through an internal mixer. It's really a self-contained production environment. Now, if we look at Cubase here, we'll be able to show you some of the elements that you'll find in a digital audio workstation. If we look at the window here, you can see this is the main Cubase window. Now, at the bottom we have the transport bar where we can actually play and record. We have the inspector along the side where we can actually see actions associated with the various tracks. And then we have the various tracks themselves. So we have audio, MIDI, a drum track which also controls MIDI elements, and an external MIDI track as well. On the right hand side we have a rack which contains virtual instruments which are played back from these two tracks here. Menu bar at the top, toolbar, and also if we right click we have various mouse actions we can call up here. So if we now look at the tracks themselves, we've got an audio track which I can play back. It has a drum loop playing, and you can see the audio waveform there. If I take this here, this 80s synth stab, I open this up, you can see the notes themselves. You can see them along the piano roll editor here as well, and this is triggering this synth here. We take a closer look at this drum track, which is playing some hi-hats. You can see, if we zoom in here, these individual hits, and then we also get the velocities associated with each of the hits as well. And each of the windows has an inspector down the side, and there's an inspector in the main window as well, where you can open up various sub-functions, and that includes things like the audio fader. So if I want to change the level of this synth, I can adjust the level here. If we turn to the transport bar here, we have play. Now I'm pressing the keyboard to start and stop playback, but we can also do it from here. We have a record button, a stop button, a loop button which allows us to loop around, and also we can set the tempo. So if we can change the tempo, and actually what will happen is we'll find the other elements in here will actually move to match those. Now you can set the audio to follow the tempo as well, and that's a mode you'll need to set specifically within your audio workstation. So now we have all our elements, what we can do is actually see how those are going to be mixed together. This is an essential part of the digital audio workstation. Now if we open up the mixer window, you can see here this looks very much like an analog style mixer. We have the inputs for recording audio, and we have the individual elements, the drum loop, the 80s synth, and also the drum track, which we can audition, solo, we can mute, we can change the level of those, and all these elements here are then mixed to the main stereo output on the right here. We mute that, we mute everything. We also have a series of effects which we can apply to each of the channels, which we'll be looking at later, and we can apply all kinds of effects to actually alter how these mixer channels sound. We can also do that across the main output, which we'll look at when we come to mastering. We also have EQ and effects sends as well, where we want to apply reverb and delay to a number of elements simultaneously. If we look at the ruler, which is this along the top, and we can zoom in and out of that. We also have controls here for doing this. I'm using key commands, but you can also use the sliders. This gives you an idea of where in the arrangement you are in terms of bars. So if I play this here, come to the second bar, and we also have this loop function, which basically allows you to loop between the left locator and the right locator. And these can be set by dragging. And when the loop function is on, the cycle mode is on, it will actually get to the right locator and loop back again. It's very important when you're actually creating a track and trying to get the vibe going. In Cubase and all digital audio workstations, there are similar ways to do the same thing. In other words, you might find a mouse function, you might find a menu function, you might find something that's buried in a toolbar and so on, and they actually might do exactly the same thing. A classic example of that in Cubase is the transport bar, which is down at the bottom of the window, and you'll also find it at the top of many of the windows as well. And in fact, you can customize it to appear at many different other places. So experiment and find the way that works for you.